All right, ladies, today we are talking about positioning your company to sell and not just sell, but to carry on your legacy because you've worked your ass off for your company. So let's talk with Jessica. Jessica Liang is the founder and managing director of Steadfast Capital, and she is a genius at this. And I'm going to tell you why in a minute. But it is a research fund providing one business owner a succession opportunity to acquiring a single company and operating it for the long term. But this woman has done amazing things already. And Jessica, welcome to the show. And
Thank you
I
so
want
much.
to know everything about you.
Okay, sounds good.
So, what made you decide that this is what you want to do? You've done all kinds of things. You are incredibly seasoned in your young age. So, talk to us a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are now.
Sure, absolutely. It was kind of a multiple conflation of things. I'd say I've spent years of my life trying to figure out, oh, what do I want to do to leave this world a better place? And, everybody's got their corner of the universe, right? Some people spend their lives researching the cure for cancer, other people join the military. And I think for me, in recent years, it really was this recognition of, oh, okay, well, we have this silver tsunami of baby boomers who are retiring, and 99.9% of American companies are small businesses. So if these owners don't end up selling their companies, they have to shut them down. And that's a huge loss to the lifeblood of our country. So I said, all right, well, this could be my 2 cents contribution to the world, buying and running one of these small businesses and giving it life into the next chapter that I might not otherwise have. And I came upon this realization that I could do this actually when I entered grad school. So I just finished a 3-year MBA and Master of Public Policy from the University of Michigan. And I'd come into school kind of on the investment management track. Prior to grad school, I worked at M&T Bank in Buffalo in their anti-money laundering compliance division. And coming into school, I'd had an early offer from PIMCO, the fixed income manager. But about midway through my first year, I saw this posting for an information session that was titled Private Equity Firm headquartered in San Mateo, California. And I looked at that and I thought, I don't really know what private equity is. And I've never heard of a company headquartered in San Mateo because it's the town next to where I grew up and it's mostly suburbia. So I pop in and it ended up being Anacapa Partners, which is a big investor in sort of this model that I'm doing now. And they said, did you know you can go raise money and buy a business? And I said, what? This is so cool. I want to do this. Nobody's ever told me I could do that. So I ended up interning for both PIMCO and Anacapa that summer. Loved my time learning about entrepreneurship through acquisition. And I said, wow, wouldn't it be so cool to do this after school? But also, I'm going into my first year of the MBA. So wouldn't it be a waste of all the recruiting opportunities to not take advantage of, all the companies that are flocking to campus to recruit us? And that's how I ended up. I was at Goldman Sachs last summer for the private wealth management division. And I thought, wow, this is really fun. I learned a lot, but man, I realized I didn't really want to be the advisor. I wanted to be the client. So I said, okay, what do all the clients do? Oh, they all own their own businesses. It's time for me to go buy my own too.
And so there you go. So you went backwards from what we're used to, right? You start a company first. Then maybe you go get some funding for it. Instead, you went and got the funding. You created a whole fund around that. And I want to know more about that too.
Yeah.
And then you go and you buy these companies. Am I understanding this
That's
correctly?
right. Yeah. So right
Okay.
now, what I've done is I've raised a fund with the purpose of acquiring just one business, actually. For me,
Okay.
this is a career path. So post acquisition, my goal is to become CEO, and then I run the company for the long term.
Now, do you bring in a team to help run the company? What's your structure once you come in?
Yeah. So currently it's just me and my 11 interns who may or may not be joining. They're in school, but depending on the type of business. So sometimes you see businesses, maybe their books are a little messy. One of my first hires, and I would hire people from outside. One of my first hires for that would probably be a controller or a VP of finance. Sometimes you come into an organization, you realize, oh, they've been doing well. They've been chugging along all these years, but they really need an extra turbo boost to, juice up their growth. Maybe the first hire will be a head of sales, right? So it is pretty dependent on the circumstances.
So this you're speaking to my heart right now, Jessica, because I know, I'm probably that baby. I'm not a baby boomer. I'm younger than that, but I know a ton of people who have companies and they are having a hard time with it, right? They didn't build it to scale. They built it to support their lifestyle. And maybe they've made a couple $1,000,000, but they're not a company that a private equity firm would be interested in or a huge investor would be interested in general.
Mhm.
And furthermore, these type of companies, so they can't get these business brokers to come in, big business brokers to come in and represent their companies. They're too
Mhm.
small, right?
Yeah.
And so therefore they're sequestered to biz buy sell and some of these kind of traditional things that aren't very effective, right? You're not going to get top dollar, let alone a great buyer.
Mhm.
So the fact that you have kind of spun it on, I didn't realize there was a model like this, first of all. So I love, that's why I do these shows. So I learn so much more and I like, just my eyes get open to opportunities. So I love that you have this business model, but talk to me more about the type of businesses that you seek out. What are some of the parameters that you have?
Absolutely. So I'm targeting more so lower middle market businesses. So generally B2B services or software in that 5 to 50 million revenue range. Or if you're in the mergers and acquisition world, it's usually the 2 to 10 million in EBITDA is the number we go by. So they're bigger than your mom and pop, and they're not necessarily a startup. It really is generally a family-owned business that's been in existence for sometimes 20 years. Best case scenario really is, the owner's retiring and the kids don't want to get into the business. And that's when I roll up and I say, hi, I'll be the daughter you wish you had. I will buy and operate this for you.
That's awesome. So how do you maintain, because you talk about legacy, right? So
Mhm.
they've worked so hard to build this business up. They hold it close to their heart. And I know that can be a challenge when buyers come in because they're paying attention, right? They want to know that you're going to carry, for many of these people, they want to know that you are going to carry on their legacy. Since their kids don't want to take it over. So how do you maintain that and then still stay focused on profits?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the core tenets of me coming in is usually there's a transition period, and I make basically an oath to myself that within the first year of the business, I'm not trying to make any changes whatsoever. Buyers who are attracted to me and the model that I'm using are really those who have an emotional attachment to the business. Usually they're afraid of selling to private equity, which might come in, slash cost, lay people off. Versus I know I'm young, I know I'm less experienced. So that means it's super important for me to take care of the current employees, keep them in place, and then just bring in my fresh ideas to grow the business to the next level. And they also, the owners are usually attracted to the fact that I'm only buying one business. So their baby becomes my baby and it gets my full time and attention. It's my career. I focus entirely on it versus their company becoming one of many in a portfolio, right? And so it is this, my whole focus is on this one company. I'm really spending the first year just learning how it runs from the ground up, whether it's, say, if I buy a plumbing company, right? I'm probably going to be out there figuring out what happens in the field, learning about, what pipes need to be switched in, what sorts of issues happen on the ground, and then also going back into the office and learning, okay, how do we handle dispatch and scheduling and coordinating the locations of the cars and learning each part of the business in that first year before implementing any change whatsoever.
So when you go into a company, somehow you find this company that you want to invest in. So I don't know if they're brought to you or if you go out and seek them, but what are you looking for to bring value? Like, I know that you're thinking, okay, how can I grow this company? You're not just thinking I want to keep status quo. What are the aspects that you're looking for in a business?
Yeah, usually looking pre-acquisition, I'll look at a company, I'll say, okay, well, general things we look at are, okay, well, does it have recurring revenue or at least high repeatability in revenue? Is it low in capital expenditures? Is there some sort of competitive moat or some sort of competitive advantage that it has in the market? Is the market fragmented? Does that mean there's room for, doing some tuck-in acquisitions and some consolidation and using that as the growth lever? Sometimes I come in and I say, well, okay, well, this company just needs to be a little bit tech enabled. Maybe they're still operating on pen and paper. And if they had some sort of system, it would streamline everything and make it much more efficient.
Okay, so now this is kind of a similar question, but it's different.
Yeah.
So if you are someone who has a company, you've had it for a while, you're growing it, or maybe it's even plateaued.
Mhm.
What's your advice for that person? So assuming they don't want to sell it yet, but they want to get it positioned to sell. And so what's your advice to them to help them be more prepared and to grow it
Oh,
smartly?
yeah, I'd say in these situations, there are a bunch of M&A advisors out there or business coaches who tend to come in and work with business owners sort of in that 3 to 5 year period, in that window before the owner is really ready to sell. And they'll come in and really look at the business from a third party lens and say, okay, what do we need to shore up here? The books are a little messy, so we definitely need to get the financials cleaned up. And I would say that's actually the most helpful part. I see it's really helpful when somebody brings in a fractional CFO and they have those financials ready so that when a prospective buyer like me shows up, I can say, hey, can I look at your last 3 to 5 years financials? It'd be really helpful for me to project growth and look at your historical performance. Just having those documents in order makes life a lot easier.
That's what I've heard. You have to be organized in order to
Yeah.
sell, right? So
Yeah.
if they were going to make one big hire, from what I heard from you, is hire a business coach or someone who really kind of knows the game and can see it from a different perspective, right? And then as a second person that they want to bring in, if they don't already have one, is a fractional CFO.
That would be helpful. I think so. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And then assuming like the business coach or whoever they bring in knows about tech and kind of can bring them up to date so they operate more effectively, saving
Mhm.
time, money, resources. Is that kind of what they're kind of the main things to start with?
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually seen business owners, they'll bring in, there are companies out there that will do, they're basically like IT consultants almost. They come in and they will take care of everything on the back end technology wise. So if a company is looking to sell and it's maybe not quite where it needs to be in terms of having the latest and greatest technology and software, these companies will actually come in and implement new systems before the seller takes it to market. It's a little bit like painting the house before you put it on the market, right? Making it look good, making it presentable for people.
Absolutely. Okay, so I want to know what's your plan? You said you come in and you buy one company.
Hmm.
But what's your bigger vision? I don't believe that you are just going to stay with one company. Just from listening to you talk and the fact that you've done all these other things, what is your business growth plan?
For me personally,
Mhm.
I really am. Well, we're going to temper our expectations. We really are just starting with one company. I really would like to find something that's a great fit for me because there's such a conflation of factors that have to align, right? And it's tough. The seller has to want to sell now. They have to want to sell to me specifically. It has to be going for a reasonable price. And the fourth one is I have to be excited to run the business. And so for me, I think that is a big tenant in my search is I just want to make sure that because this is my career and because I'll be going to work day to day in the company, I want to make sure that whatever company I end up in is doing some sort of essential service for this world so that when I go into work every day, I know, hey, I'm providing a critical service that the world needs. And there are so many industries where you can do that, right? I'd say my background is a good fit for things that are government services adjacent or in education. But there are so many critical industries out there. We all need refrigerated trucking, for example, to transport our food safely. We all need medical equipment suppliers. We all need senior living homes and waste management companies and roofing companies. So that is sort of, I'm looking for, okay, what is that company that is doing some sort of essential service where I can come in and know that I can do well by doing good and by providing value to people. And then if all goes well, continue to grow the company. I thrive in it. And I did a master's in public policy as well, and I've always had sort of this interest in public service. So I hope one day, whatever company I end up acquiring, I gain expertise in that field, and I'm able to translate that on the side to maybe helping advise some policy work and, giving back and helping scale that impact from a public sector standpoint.
I could go on so many different ways with my question because with the things that you're bringing up. But I want to talk about the funding that you got because you're young, you had not owned a company before, you're highly educated, you've had a lot of experience, but building a fund is extremely difficult. And
Yeah.
so how did you go about that and how did you get the funding?
Absolutely. So I definitely think I'm very lucky. If you think about it conceptually, it's a little odd. I sometimes sit here and wonder, why did my investors give me money? That's a lot of trust. And it's a huge honor. And I want to make sure I'm a good steward of capital and that, for whatever company I buy also creates a great return for them. So my investors, I was really lucky. I met them through graduate school, actually. So that first internship with Anna Kappa sort of kicked off, like you meet one investor, they introduce you to the others. So the internship at Anna Kappa went well, and I was very lucky. They were happy to come on as one of my anchor investors for my fund. So, um, with that, and I actually co-founded the Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition Club at the University of Michigan in my third year of grad school. So with that, we invited a bunch of the big investors to campus to talk to our students. We hosted our inaugural conference on campus, and so a bunch of the investors came back. And so when it came time to fundraise, I think I was very lucky. It took me about 2 weeks. So it was a fast raise and I was oversubscribed, but I credit that a lot to the relationships I built through the club, right? So when I went to fundraise, it wasn't, hi, you don't know me, give me money. It was, hi, you've met me, we've worked together over the past year. I really want to embark on this journey now. Will you support me? And having some incredible people miraculously say yes.
I
So
love that. I don't think it was miraculous. I think it's because of the relationships that you built and the way that you showed up and what they saw that made it an easy yes for you to, 2 weeks. Are you kidding? That's not common, just for anyone who's listening to this. And then you got overfunded, which again, not common, but congratulations to you and what you're building. I so look forward to watching what you create, where you go, because I know that this is not going to be the last thing that you do. So thank you so much for being on the show. What is one piece of advice, one kind of key piece of advice that you have for an entrepreneur who is considering selling? What's one big takeaway that you have for them?
For the entrepreneur that's considering selling, I would say be true to yourself. Think about that incredible business that you've built over the last 10, 20, 30 years. Who do you want to take over the business, right? Think about, how the nature of that business is going to change if and when you sell, and who do you want to be at the helm? Who do you trust to take it into that next chapter? And if you're listening to this, I hope it's me. I look forward to meeting you.
Okay, so where do they go to find you? Because I have a feeling you're going to get a lot of hits after this show comes out. So where do they go to find you?
You can find me at my website, steadfeather.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn as well. I'm very responsive to email and to the phone number listed on the website as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Midori. This was lovely.
To be the best, you need to play with the best. You might not have your own personal high-level circle of women yet, but you can hang with us on the Female Millionaire Show. I'm Midori Verity, serial entrepreneur for over 25 years, and I interview badass female founders and cut through to what you really need to know. So in 20 minutes, you have what can take years to learn. If you're wanting to play bigger, come play with us. Join the female entrepreneur revolution today. Cheers.